Hello, welcome to Pathways to Peace Symposium. I'm Matt Pearlstein, and we have another wonderful speaker. This is Lindsey Capp from the UK. She's been a long time emotional intelligence trainer and consultant, and has wonderful energy and has some great perspective on things. So I invited her to talk to me and talk to us. What are we doing with peace? How are we creating inner peace first? How we can create interpersonal peace between us? How we can create social peace among us? And someday, if enough of us know how to do peace, maybe we can create big world peace. So that's what we're going to be chatting about today. So welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. It's great to be here and part of this whole perspective of being. So I'm really excited for us to be in dialogue and conversation around this.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all that you do. I know you reach out to a lot of people and try to help. I know you've been doing this for a long time, which is really cool. I enjoy the perspective on people that have been doing it for a while. And I think peace might be a kind of new subject for you, yes, as a goal.
It is. Well,
right.
it's more, I love the fact that we're bringing attention to the outcome. So even though in EQ and the whole learning, but for what? So I love the fact that we're directing it to an outcome purpose that is bigger than us, that is a we. So it takes it from the individual learning to an us, to a one. And I'm definitely a champion for that.
Nice. And it's not just them, all right? There's caregivers, and there's a common perception in the world or whatever, that if you're going to give, it's not for you, it's for them. Absolutely. I don't buy it. That formula doesn't work in my opinion. The formula is I am giving because it makes me feel good, and you both, because I won't keep doing it if it doesn't feel good to me. I won't keep doing it. You're going to burn out. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to go, you know what? They're not enjoying it, or they're not appreciating as much as I want, and that kind of thing. Guess what? That's about you. So we got to deal with you and them both, right?
It's a both and. I certainly join you in the both and, that first of all we start with an I. And I think when we move into this awakening, this understanding, we certainly start with the I first, and then what we see is then there's a unity of which then becomes a we, that then becomes bigger than that. When we're looking at the peace, it's an overall way of being. So nice. There's just a one. Yeah, but it certainly transitions, in my view, from like a self-awareness to a self-authoring to then a whole perspective. So it takes out the individualism side of things so that it can grow bigger than the I. It has to. So in my view, again.
Yes, and one of the big components, we had Josh Friedman from 6 Seconds on, and if you don't know who 6 Seconds is, it's 6seconds.org, the real actual 6seconds.org, and they promote one of their competencies is called having a noble goal, and it's for us, but it's us committing to something for the world. And it makes us feel better. It's wild, but it does. Giving works. Give to live, we say. Giving works for us in a very selfish way. It's really cool. I love that. It's a kind of one of the magical components of emotional intelligence is the more, if you give a lot, you will feel better, and they will feel better, and you'll have better relationships, and people like that, and people want to be around you, and it's quite loving, and it's quite wonderful. So yes.
Yeah, there's certainly a belonging in it, Matt. You know, we all search for belonging, you know, so although we can identify it, it's like I want to be of service, but the service is me too, you know, I want to be in that. So that unity, that togetherness, that whole sense of self, there has to be an I, a we, a us, a togetherness, because I think we were born for community, for that connection. And so when that gets separated, Certainly we're helping now to bring back the connection to self, connection to the purpose, connection to the growth, connection to one another, and then be part of this whole evolution of connection and belonging, because I think that massively impacts our mental health. And then we're really evolving and inspiring the next generation through our being.
That too. That's another thing, being a good role model. That's another thing. Yep. And the connection thing is not funny. It's not, that's one of the worst things that's happening in the world today with the pandemic. Josh was also talking about, they have been able to quantify emotions, quantify EQ, which is pretty wild. And they, loneliness is one of the worst things that's happening today, and it's so bad. In fact, he said the state of the world being lonely was at the lowest point ever before the pandemic, and then it got 25 to 50% worse during. And what's happening with that is isolation, depression, anger, domestic violence, child abuse, and the worst one, of course, is suicide. The suicide rate is skyrocketing in the US, in the UK, in the in Africa, and in Asia. It's going up. They don't like talking too much about it. We just last night, I heard about another friend of ours last night, and it's like, oh, he's just a kid. I'm like, no, he was not a kid. He was not a kid, and he's. Anyway,
it's the word just. It's the word just.
Yeah, right.
And
I
think there's something in that, Matt, which is our language and the way we speak into our being. Speak into, and that's what we're doing here. Is the more we speak into it, the more we share through language. Language is our connection. The way in which we show up in language connects. And that, when you just said about Josh, and we were disconnected before the pandemic because we were so busy. We're so busy that we forget to talk. And when we're not talking, and hearing ourselves, it's not just talking, but it's listening. We're not taught to listen, a deeper level of listening. And in that, we feel disconnected again, just in our internal thinking. Don't leave me alone with my internal thinking, please, because it's that's the challenge, and I think in the pandemic we started, and this is just my perspective, but when you spoke there about Josh saying it actually went up a little bit, my thinking is because we were made to slow down. So we had to listen. And if we have to listen, then isn't it amazing how then we start to become a little bit more insightful? And then what do we do with that insight? Then we turn in on ourselves again, because we haven't been used to this level of sharing and community, that then all of a sudden we feel lonely, more lonely, because we've had to slow down. And so it doesn't surprise me that you're sharing that Josh, gave us the statistics of we sort of do this. And it's like, and this is why this is so important. Talking. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking into it in a EQ mentality of our language having that loving edge of non-judgment, even though, it'd be crazy if we said we don't have judgments. We live off judgments. They keep us safe. But it's how do we hear our judgments, and how do we then speak into our judgments so that we can create more of our being, be the mirror of what's possible. That, I think, honestly, Matt, is what we're learning more and more to do on the back of the pandemic, is how do you speak into you? How do we speak? So with the suicides and the mental health side, we're speaking more. We're doing these. Let's talk about how you are the creator, how you can create more inner peace, and it doesn't come outside of you. What we want to do is show you the powerful being that you are, to create more for yourself. And from there, you are the mirror of what's possible for others. I mean, I could speak all day about it. I mean, it's, but we need to learn, you know, Matt, we're not taught. And this is why we want to share more of our wisdoms, is how can we learn to be with our thinking more lovingly? How can I not judge myself so harshly? How can I be in possibility more? Teach me that, because that's what's going to create more space for peace and slow me down. When I can trust myself to be with myself, to be with what I was told I was, what I'm told society needs from me. Help me to be more peaceful with me. That's how I see us really being of service.
Nice, nice. I'm sorry, it looks like I'm distracted typing something. I'm just typing what you're saying into the chat. Can you see them?
Lovely, so, lovely.
No, I'm not listening. I'm listening very hard.
So, you'll have to slow me down, Matt.
Okay. And I'm agreeing very definitely, Lindsay. Beautiful the way you're saying it. Us expressing ourselves, being ourselves in beautiful, powerful ways, and listening. And oh man, people have no idea how to listen. It's not that hard. This is not rocket science, right? Shut up and listen.
Well, you're right, Matt, but we weren't taught, I think, as children, that we were listened to. And this is where we want to start really recreating a way of being. Is I want to be the mirror of hearing you at a level in which you feel heard. Because when we feel heard, we automatically calm inside. When you really feel someone gets you, it's like, wow, that you feel that. You know, it's indescribable when you feel valued and heard. And when we can be that for somebody else, we can only have done it when we've done it for ourselves, because it wouldn't be possible. And so I think very much in what I'd love people to start looking at is you are not broken. I think you are not broken. You are not in need of self-help. You are not in need of self-fixing, because that automatically brings some listening that I am not enough, that there is something I need to be for society to stay in connection with me. And there's something that I need to be that is not acceptable. So if we can really start to say, you do not need help, you do not need fixing, and whatever you are thinking, whatever judgments are coming up, they are coming from a preconceived person, unless they feel good. Unless they feel really amazing and you feel at peace with them, they have come from somebody else, either society, your caregivers, something you've heard that you've latched onto. That we want to get into a place where we forgive ourselves for believing that we were anything outside of perfection.
Ooh,
we want to forgive ourselves.
Nice. Yeah, I know you can keep going, and it's great.
I know, Matt, honestly, butt in.
Don't get me started. or do, that's fine. But anyway, so let's talk a minute about how did you used to be? How did you get here? What were you used to be like? Because I used to think I needed fixing bad. And then I realized I just had no idea how to do my emotions. But what was it like for you?
Yeah, so for me, I was brought up in a very volatile childhood. So I had a mother who was an alcoholic from day dot. She was heavily affected and self-harmed. So I grew up with a lot of things visually that were really disturbing. So you would have very volatile ways of being that you had to stay safe from. And I also had a father, and their relationship was very volatile. So there was a lot of aggression, there was a lot of physical and mental abuse that really, created a lack of self, in reflection. So that was growing up. So of course, when I hit my 20s, there was a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger I went from a conforming child to a rebellious young adult of no one was going to tell me again. Yeah. You can hear me in this, Matt. Don't you tell me. And I was all for the fight, yeah. 100%. And very, I kept everybody away because it was unsafe, emotionally unsafe. I knew how to fight. I knew how to argue. I knew how to be confrontational. Ninja.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're up here and they're down, gotta take the upper hand, right? This is not safe. I gotta go, get bigger.
Yeah, because that's what I was taught. That's how I learned EQ.
That's how you survived.
Right. And so there was all that going on inside me. And so when I had my first child, obviously what played out was a real unbalance of the mum I definitely didn't want to be was mine. And I didn't want the same thing for my child. And I think we all go through that, especially when we step into parenting from abusive backgrounds, is I definitely want to do the opposite. And yet I haven't been taught any other skills than what I have to do that. So there was a self-battling that I had, which was I hated who I was, because anytime anger would come out, frustration, all the things I've been taught, I would self-hate. So I felt not good enough, which would then perpetuate the anger, the frustration, the depression, I was like,
just like your parents.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly, which then moved me into the love for my child was the factor that pushed me from the intense pain to then go and seek new learnings. And the new learnings went into NLP, went into coaching, went into, philosophy, the Tao. We went into coaching, and then I went into emotional intelligence. So much searching of how really, if I put it into a bundle, how to self-regulate my emotions.
Here's something I found the other day. Is this fit for you?
Yeah, there we go, right? I'm exactly shield.
There's you in the middle.
Yeah. Do you know, Matt, that's so powerful. So powerful in the fact that I didn't know how to do anything any better. I was doing my best, and that best, I was in pain. There was no peace in me. I didn't even know how. Because
I'm not doing my kids this way. The way I'm not doing it. That's strength and courage too. Nice going, Lindsey.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know that I'd done, I had my first daughter at 28. I'd had 28 years of no peace and nothing but self-doubt and nothing but the extremities of, volatileness or real depression. It was either or. There was no ability in me to regulate because I hadn't learned. So that wasn't going to impact my child, which was my biggest love. I hadn't learned to love me, but it's really weird when we step into parenting, the natural love we have. So I'll bring you on to so I started all this, and then I was, my second child I had at 36, and he was very different. He didn't speak. He banged his head off the floor. He took the skin off his face in anger. He just would scream and kick out. And I had no clue what this was because I'd already done this learning. And then I had a whole new set of challenges and thought, there's something wrong, and I went for help, and they said, we don't help until they go to school. And if they're at school and there's problems, then we'll intervene. And my child was just coming up 3, and it had been horrendous. And I said, you don't understand. And so I video recorded him, and I protested, nearly got arrested, because I begged them to just watch the video, because seeing your son ripping his face and you can't stop him and hitting you, and just the frustration of love for your child, and helpless. I think helplessness is the worst pain, right?
Yes.
You know,
Powerless.
the opposite.
Yep.
Yeah, the opposite of peace, which is extreme pain. Please, someone, because I'm lost, you know. And so this lady, I was just about to be arrested, and this lady came out, this child psychologist. She was retiring, thank gosh for her. She said, let her up, let me just watch, come in. She took compassion on me, and she diagnosed my son very high on the autistic spectrum. And she turned to me, Matt, and she said, I said, you know, what does that mean? Because I'd never heard of autism. I'd not been around it. So it was completely new. And she said to me, your son may not go to mainstream school. He may not say things like other children, like I love you, or express his needs. He'll need intervention. He may not show you emotions in ways that your other child does, and he may not never drive a car. It will be things that are expected that he won't be able to do. And so coming out of there, rolling that on, I felt, Matt, that I'd lost my child. You know, it was like a real grief of expectation being stripped away, and then left with this whole set of new rules that I was like, I don't know how to love like this. I don't know how to parent like this. And so I gave up my job. I mean, after about 4 months of real deep grieving, you know, lost. And I think we always have a breakdown before we have a breakthrough. And so for me, it was very much on, right, shit to this. You're not telling me who my son is. You can't know who he is, and I can't know who he is. So I'm going to find out. And I learned the autistic spectrum. I went on loads of courses, and then I found out how to communicate with him through PECS, which is Picture Education Communication System, which is, I took photos of his whole world. I laminated them onto a Velcro book, and we started to communicate through pictures. Roll it on. I found a nursery that would let me teach them how to communicate with him through pictures. He then started to thrive. I found him a small little village school here in the UK that the headmaster came and watched. I mean, I'm really rolling it on. But at 4, he went to a mainstream school. He started talking at 5. I found him, because in the UK, when you go to parent classes, they're structured. So you do this, you have drink time, you have singing time, and he wouldn't do any of that. He would just face the wall with a train and just backwards and forwards. So you had all the eyes on you, like the weird kid in the corner, the weird mum, you know, you felt all that disconnection and judgment. It was tough, but we continued, and I found him gymnastics club where he could be free and just learn to do his own thing. Roll it on. And my son got crowned the UK British men's gymnastic champion for the UK under 12s, and you can see that medal there. He stood in London Arena, and he, not in the special needs, this is full men's artistic gymnastics, 7 pieces. He was against the best in the England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, best 75, and he won it. And you know what, Matt? What that taught me?
Read my lips, right? Read my lips.
Matt, I mean, come on. What that taught me, and why I do the work I do, is if I would have listened to what was dictated by society for my son, would he be at the best grammar school, past his 11 plus? Would he have got gold medals put round his neck? Would he even believe in himself the way he does now, where he doesn't know he has a diagnosis? I never told him. What for? I am not going to label anybody with a judgment of an outside society dictation. What I'm going to say, and I think what we're a stand for, is who are you in your being? What do you want? What do you need? And let me hear you. And in that, we can create more inner peace. And by hearing one another and communicating whatever way we need, my son needed it in pictures. And only upon hearing his needs and hearing at that level of, what do you need? Not what do I need you to be? Not about me. What do you need? Who are you? Yeah.
Nice.
So
nice. Way to go, Lindsay. That's very cool. I don't mean to interrupt you. We got to roll. Yeah, it's beautiful,
absolutely.
Yeah, well done. Congratulations. That's super cool. What a cool story. That's great. We had a couple other speakers that talked about in normal public education, we're telling, and they're like, no, ask the kids. What do you guys, bring it out? Like you were saying, listen to them, bring it out, please. This is not working.
Yeah. And
so,
just
way to go. And you figured that out. You figured that out by yourself. So sometimes we do have to figure this stuff out by ourselves. I also commend you too for noticing. We say awareness, acceptance, action. You noticed and you accepted that this is not going well, and you took action, and you're like, we took brave, concerted action to learn about you first, which is very cool. That's our point. And then for the purpose of helping other people and your kids and all that. That's beautiful. Great story. That's a great example of that. Way to go. So what I'm sorry to blast through, because I could listen to this all day.
We can talk all day.
Sorry. What do we do? What do you think big wise? What's possible? Go.
So really go. So really, I think for everybody, it is the first question is, what do you want? Yeah. What do you want? Do you, if you can be with that question and be with the question of, what do you need? What do you need?
Yeah.
And then from there, just being still and slowing it down, that you don't have to do anything. That actually, if you can slow down and be with you, that is self. Total presence is the most peaceful place we can be. That you are not broken. You are not broken, but what do you need? And then from there, with that kind of awareness and that answer to the question, it's like, okay, how? What do you need next? What can we do? And let's move into the action. So the first thing is slowing yourself down and coming from a being, which is, you are nothing but perfection in this moment if you stay out of the stories of future and stories of past. That if we just stay completely now, there's nothing you need to be anything other than this moment.
Wow. Well put. Well put. Most of our emotion, our turmoil, our negative emotions are like you said, about the past, right? Guilt and shame and etc. is about past, and even anger, and fear and stress and anxiety are about the future, right? And so if you can stay out of both of those, you're right on.
Just cut. I always say, like, don't bring the backpack with you. Let's start from a now. Let's literally, but you would have to be brave to let those stories go, because if they're not serving you, then why bring them into this moment? Let's start afresh, really like a rebirth of you in this moment have everything you need. And if you stay out of the story, that you don't. So that, and it's brave. And I'm not saying that it's an overnight thing, but certainly starting with the question of, what do you want and what do you need will bring you to this present moment.
Nice, nice. I do want to throw out though that you said, why do you bring your stories into the moment from the past? And the reason usually is because we have unresolved emotions and thoughts about those things, and they get stuck in our body, and especially the thoughts become belief systems of who we are and what we're supposed to be doing, and what we're not supposed to be doing, and all that stuff. And we don't have to carry those.
Cut the strings.
If we can, right? If we can deal with our emotions.
Yeah.
What did you call it?
I call it cut the strings. You know, if we think of ourselves like a puppet, you know, the stories move us, you know, one way or another. And really it's like, listen, let's cut the strings and let's just be brave. You know, if we think about Pinocchio, you know, become a real boy, a real person. It's like, let's be the real you. And you can only do that if you be brave enough to cut the strings. You know,
nice. And you're right. It does take courage. It takes trust. It takes faith.
Bravery.
A lot of bravery, big time, way more than. And the cool part too that I found is once you can do that, even a couple times, that you can cut some of the stuff up from our child, we go, oh damn, I can do that. I can do that. Right? That's the basis of self-esteem and self-trust and self-love and all that stuff. Even if you can do it once, you go, I didn't know I could do that. I can do that. Just
being in possibility. You're so right, Matt. You know, I'm not asking you to do one big leap of mankind. I'm literally saying one step, you know, and the one step is, listen, would you be willing? This is the speaking. Would you be willing to start from a now? Would you be willing to just live in the possibility that we could create together? You know, even if that's the first step, just a willingness, that's massive.
Yep. And that right next is bravery.
I'm willing, but absolutely.
I'm like, okay.
And you need your people around you, you know, Matt, honestly, that's why we all share, you know, look at this and find your people, because we're not meant to do this alone. We are not meant to evolve alone. So please reach out and allow people who have done this journey and are doing it, because we never get there. We're always, you know, growing and learning and waking up to more and more. So be with the people, and you'll know them because they'll love you unconditionally. They'll love to help because you are them, and they get, like you say, we get it back. When we help you, we help ourselves. We're a one. So reach out. Don't go alone. Don't go alone. The first bit is, are you willing?
And where that starts, right? Well, and part of that starts with what I call the most important thing. I do presentations all the time, and I'd say that one thing take from this, if you don't take anything else, is what I call emotional responsibility, which means that our thoughts and our feelings and our actions and our judgments and our beliefs and our values and all our attitudes, all that stuff are ours. And so they're ours, 100% of them are ours. And if we take that responsibility, we can do great things. If we don't, we become a whiner, blamer, victim. They did it to me. Oh my gosh, isn't it awful? All that stuff. So if we take emotional responsibility, we can do great things. And like you also said, socially, we need to connect. We are built to connect, right? We're social humans, and we need to connect. And if you can take responsibility, you'll know that connecting is on us. They're not coming to us. We got to go to them. We got to make the relationships, and we got to shut up and listen to people because they like that to make relationships, right? It's on us.
And the ownership. You know, if we take very small parts, it's like, firstly, what you will see in this in your EI is like the optimism. Are you willing? You know, that's your optimism. You know, the social connection. Will you reach out? The self-regard, you know, about yourself. You know, what do you want? Your assertiveness. What are you going to do next? It all is a matrix, and it's all in you if we take it at small steps and bite-sized ways of moving forward. We don't have to do it all, But listen, the first thing, like Matt just said, really is the bravery of, listen, it's about you. You are me, I am you, and we are what's going to make the difference. And that first step is the bravest, loving you first, loving you first.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to push the
No,
time.
not so.
I know. I wish we could keep going. So one more thing though is, and we got like one more minute. How do we get this? Do you have any picture of that? What do you want? How do we get this big?
Yeah, so for me, I certainly would say to you, if you are wanting to become more awake to what's possible for yourself, what is it you want will give you an indication of where do you go for that. So there are so many emotional intelligence, EQ, there's so much out there now. I would say look for the people. Yeah, look for the people who you are drawn to, that feel safe and that have done the journey. Don't look for the shiny things, don't look for the promise. Don't look for the money or the relation. It's got to start with you. So trust your internal. Notice what you're drawn to, because your internal wisdom is your compass if you slow down and listen. So have a look. There's YouTube, there's podcasts, there's so much out there. But slow down and think to yourself, what does this person hold that I want? Go to the people that are actually being what you would like, and they're your people. Find your people.
Find your people, find your tribe, find your
yeah exactly. Find your community, cool. Because that is your social responsibility, is your ownership to find your people, and no one can find your people. They can tell you, but that's not about you. It's got to come from you, your heart, your passion. And then from there, you've got a chance then to wake up to more possibility for yourself, and you will start to evolve at a rate of knots.
Nice. Wow. Woo, great stuff. I'm fired up just listening to you. I feel inspired. Very cool.
Lovely.
Very cool. And you make it sound like it's doable, because it is. It is.
Yeah, listen, if I come from my levels of emotional and physical abuse, from real poverty, real poverty, starvation, lots. And I can make it all the way to being a single mum of 3 and a successful business. And it's not so much about what's outside, Matt, but internal peace, that I can come back to a me that I'm proud of, that I love, and that I can be in the imperfection with, still lovingly. That's a successful life, that if I died tomorrow, I would still be in such peace.
Yeah, me too.
Real pride,
Yep, me too. Right on. Right on.
Come on.
And the studies after study after study is showing now, right? People with higher emotional intelligence are happier, and they're more peaceful, and they're more loving, and they have better relationships, and they're more successful, like you said, and they are more satisfied, and all kinds of good stuff. And they actually, a couple of them are saying now that you actually live longer too, which is pretty wild.
That's so true. So true.
Yeah, and have less severe physical ailments. They've attached the emotions to the physical. And anyway, okay, we got to go. This is beautiful.
I know.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. I've loved it. And listen, anybody who's got questions or any way that they just feel a little drawn to, I will help with anything I can. Resources.
Okay. What do you want me to put in the chat of how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, lindseycapp.com. There's literally really easy, lindseycapp.com, and any questions or anything that you're drawn to in anything that I've shared, I certainly have enough people around in my tribe to be able to steer you in directions that are right for you on your sharings. Okay. Nice.
One more thing is that concept is that emotional intelligence itself is completely free. We were born with it.
Yeah.
It's completely free inside of us. We just don't know how to use it. You might have to pay somebody a little bit to get started, to help you, to train you, to get you started, but then it's yours. Go, go,
Yeah,
go, go.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So it
I
might
mean,
be a little bit-
literally, Matt, I run courses, I run lots of free sharing. So there's lots in which, like yourself, we just got to find the right person to train us for the right internal. So that's really important, because there's so many people say they do it, but I would implore people to look at people's being. Don't look at what necessarily they tell you, but really get a feel for who they are. That's when you'll know.
Nice.
That's when
Nice.
you know.
Woo-hoo. All
All
right.
right.
This is the longest one yet.
Is
That's,
it?
that's
Sorry.
Okay. Beautiful. Yeah. I know. I can stop. I can listen to you. Anyway, my fault too. So good stuff. Thank you, Lindsey. Keep doing what
so
you're doing.
welcome.
Thank you, Nikki, for
Thank
doing what you're
you.
doing and spreading the great word, because you got a wonderful way of putting it. So
Thanks, Matt.
all right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.